Night Watch Archives, Case File 002, The Brown Mountain Lights, America's oldest unexplained light phenomenon. Before the first investigation, there are mysteries that begin with a single witness, a single night, a single unexplained event. The Brown Mountain Lights are not one of them. Long before cameras, long before newspapers, long before anyone used the term UFO, people were watching mysterious lights appear over the ridges of western North Carolina, generation after generation. The lights returned, sometimes white, sometimes amber, occasionally red. They drifted above the mountains, hovered, separated, merged together, then quietly disappeared. They left behind no wreckage, no physical evidence, no explanation, only another witness, wondering what they had just seen. Brown Mountain rises along the eastern edge of North Carolina's Blue Ridge Mountains. It stands overlooking the Linville Gorge, one of the oldest geological formations in North America. The landscape is rugged, steep ridges, deep valleys, dense forests. Even today, large portions of the surrounding wilderness remain remarkably unchanged. After sunset, darkness settles quickly across the mountains. From distant overlooks, small lights can sometimes be seen moving across the valleys below. Most have ordinary explanations: vehicle headlights, campfires, distant homes, aircraft crossing high above the ridges. The Brown Mountain Lights are different. Witnesses consistently describe lights appearing where no roads exist. They move in ways inconsistent with aircraft. They sometimes remain stationary for extended periods. Other times, they drift silently across the mountains before fading without obvious cause. Most unusual of all, they have been reported for centuries. Unlike many unexplained phenomena, the Brown Mountain Lights cannot be traced to a single modern event. There is no first police report, no single newspaper headline, no dramatic encounter that suddenly introduced them to the public. Instead, the historical record reveals something far more unusual. The phenomenon simply continues, generation after generation, long before electricity illuminated mountain communities. People reported lights moving across Brown Mountain. Early settlers recorded them. Residents spoke about them. Local traditions preserved them. Some accounts suggest indigenous communities were already familiar with unusual lights in the region long before European settlement, though separating traditional stories from later interpretation requires caution. As more people settled the mountains, the reports continued. Travelers described mysterious lights while crossing the ridges. Hunters observed them after sunset. Families living in nearby communities accepted them as something occasionally seen, but never fully understood. Unlike many legends, the Brown Mountain Lights never relied upon a monster. No creature emerged from the forest. No ghost demanded attention. No hidden civilization revealed itself. There were only lights, quiet, distant, persistent. And because they were only lights, the mystery often escaped the sensational headlines that followed more dramatic stories. Yet investigators eventually became interested. Scientists, journalists, government researchers, each arrived believing they might finally explain what generations of witnesses had described. Some proposed atmospheric conditions, others suggested unusual geological activity. Still others believed distant train lights, vehicle headlights, or temperature inversions accounted for the reports. Each explanation solved part of the mystery. None solved all of it. That is why the Brown Mountain Lights occupy a unique place within American unexplained history. They resist easy classification. They do not behave like classic UFO encounters. There are no reported occupants, no structured craft, no communication, no close encounters. The lights simply appear, as they always have, then disappear, leaving the observer with the same unanswered question carried by generations before them. What exactly was seen? Tonight, we open the first file, not to explain the Brown Mountain Lights, but to examine the historical record that transformed a regional mountain mystery into one of America's oldest continuously reported unexplained phenomena. The lights that refuse to disappear. For many unexplained phenomena, there is a beginning, a first witness, a first newspaper article, a first investigation. The Brown Mountain Lights offer no such starting point. By the time anyone attempted to investigate them scientifically, the lights had already become part of local history. That alone separates Brown Mountain from nearly every other unexplained aerial phenomenon in the United States. The mystery did not begin with aviation. It did not begin with the modern UFO era. It was already there, waiting. One of the earliest challenges investigators encountered was the consistency of the reports. Witnesses often disagreed about exactly what the lights were, but they rarely disagreed about how they behaved. Most described small glowing lights appearing after darkness settled across the mountains. Some appeared as a single light, others appeared in groups. Witnesses occasionally reported one light dividing into two, or several lights merging into one before fading from view. The lights rarely moved in straight lines. Instead, they drifted, hovered, rose slowly above the ridgelines, then descended into the valleys below. Sometimes they vanished instantly. Other times they slowly dimmed until they simply disappeared into the darkness. They made no sound, they left no visible trail, and they appeared completely indifferent to the people watching them. That last detail is surprisingly important. Many famous UFO cases involve interaction. Objects following automobiles, hovering over homes, responding to witnesses. The Brown Mountain Lights do none of those things. They never appear interested in observation. They simply continue their quiet movements, whether anyone is watching or not. That consistency has become one of the strongest arguments against the phenomenon being purely psychological. Hallucinations vary, stories change, legends evolve. The Brown Mountain Lights remain lights, decade after decade, as transportation improved during the 19th century. More travelers passed through the mountains. More people witnessed the phenomenon. Local newspapers occasionally mentioned strange lights seen above Brown Mountain. The reports attracted curiosity, but not widespread attention. To the people who lived nearby, the lights were unusual, yet familiar. Visitors found them astonishing. Residents often responded with a simple acknowledgement. Yes, people had been seeing them for as long as anyone could remember. That attitude fascinated later researchers. In many famous mysteries, local folklore grows more dramatic with each generation. Brown Mountain developed in the opposite direction. Residents rarely exaggerated what they saw. Most simply described distant lights. Nothing more, nothing less. That restraint would later become one of the reasons investigators considered the reports worthy of study. If hundreds of people over many generations continue describing essentially the same phenomenon, the reports deserve examination, not because they prove an extraordinary explanation, but because consistency itself becomes evidence that something is occurring. The question becomes, what? Throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries, numerous explanations were proposed. Some believed the lights were campfires viewed through unusual atmospheric conditions. Others suggested locomotive headlights from distant rail lines. Still others proposed reflections caused by temperature inversions in the mountain air. Each explanation accounted for certain observations. None accounted for all of them. Many witnesses observed the lights in areas where no roads existed. Others reported the phenomenon before railroads reached the region. Some watched the lights move in ways inconsistent with either explanation. Investigators found themselves confronting an uncomfortable reality. Ordinary explanations successfully explained some sightings, but failed to explain the phenomenon as a whole. That distinction matters. Night Watch Archives is not concerned with defending a mystery, nor are we interested in dismissing one. Our responsibility is to preserve the historical record exactly as it exists. Some reports almost certainly have conventional explanations. Others remain unresolved. The challenge is determining which is which. As scientific interest increased, researchers began organizing formal observations. Measurements were taken, weather conditions recorded, viewing locations documented. For the first time, the Brown Mountain lights were moving from local folklore into systematic investigation. The results of those investigations would shape the mystery for the next century, and they would reveal something few expected. The lights were real enough to study, but proving what they were would be another matter entirely. Science meets the mystery. By the early 20th century, the Brown Mountain lights had outgrown folklore. The reports had become too numerous, too consistent, and too persistent to simply ignore. Scientists arrived believing the mystery could finally be resolved. Surely, if the lights had a natural cause, modern investigation would reveal it. One of the earliest organized efforts came after public interest continued growing throughout the early 1900s. Observers traveled to overlooks surrounding Brown Mountain. They documented dates, weather conditions, viewing angles, distances. The objective was simple: determine exactly what people were seeing. At first, the investigation appeared promising. Researchers quickly identified several ordinary sources of light visible from the surrounding mountains: distant railroad locomotives, campfires, small communities scattered across the valleys. Later, automobile headlights. Atmospheric conditions occasionally magnified or distorted these distant light sources. Temperature inversions could bend light. Humidity could create unusual visual effects. Mountain terrain complicated depth perception. On paper, the explanations made sense. For some sightings, investigators successfully demonstrated that certain reported lights aligned with train schedules. Others matched vehicle traffic. Some observations disappeared entirely when weather conditions changed. These findings were important. They proved that not every mysterious light above Brown Mountain represented an unexplained phenomenon. Some reports had perfectly ordinary explanations. That should have closed the case. Instead, it complicated it. because after removing every explainable observation, witnesses continued reporting lights that remained unexplained. Investigators returned, again and again. Each new study narrowed the mystery. None eliminated it. This became the defining pattern of Brown Mountain research. Every investigation explained part of the phenomenon, never all of it. That distinction is critical. Skeptics sometimes point to successful explanations as evidence that the mystery has been solved. Believers often point to the remaining unexplained observations as evidence of something extraordinary. The historical record supports neither conclusion completely. Instead, it reveals a far more interesting reality. Brown Mountain appears to host multiple categories of observations. Some are almost certainly misidentified natural or human-made lights. Others continue resisting definitive explanation despite decades of investigation. Night Watch Archives considers that distinction essential. Good investigations eliminate what can be eliminated. They do not force the remaining evidence to fit a preferred conclusion. During the 20th century, technology continued improving. Binoculars became more powerful. Photography advanced. Observation techniques became increasingly sophisticated. Researchers believed better equipment would finally capture the lights in a way that settled the debate. Instead, the mystery adapted. Photographs confirmed lights. They did not identify them. Film preserved movement. It did not explain it. Observers continued documenting glowing spheres appearing above the ridge lines, moving slowly, changing brightness, sometimes dividing, sometimes fading away altogether. Modern digital cameras produced sharper images. Drone technology offered entirely new viewing perspectives. Again, the phenomenon remained. Technology improved the record. It did not solve the mystery. Modern photographic and drone observations have documented continuity in the phenomenon across decades, preserving recurring light behavior without providing a universally accepted explanation. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Brown Mountain is not that unexplained lights continue to appear. It is that they appear much the same today as they did generations ago. Descriptions have remained remarkably stable. Witnesses are not reporting enormous structured craft. They are not describing alien beings. They are not recounting dramatic close encounters. They continue describing lights, small, distant, silent, moving across the mountains exactly as earlier witnesses described them. Within the broader history of unidentified aerial phenomena, that consistency is almost unique. Many famous UFO cases evolve with popular culture. Airships become flying saucers become triangles become drones. Descriptions change as society changes. Brown Mountain largely avoided that transformation. The lights never became fashionable. They never followed trends. They remained exactly what witnesses had always called them: lights. That remarkable continuity has earned Brown Mountain a singular place within American UFO history. It does not sit comfortably among classic extraterrestrial encounters, nor does it fit neatly within known atmospheric science. It exists somewhere between those worlds, a mystery investigated repeatedly, reduced repeatedly, yet never completely resolved. And as the 20th century drew to a close, researchers began asking a different question, perhaps the most important question of all. Not, what are the Brown Mountain lights? But, Why do they continue appearing in the same place, century after century? Brown Mountain's place in UFO history. By the time the modern UFO era began, the Brown Mountain lights were already old. When Kenneth Arnold reported seeing 9 unusual objects over Mount Rainier in 1947, Brown Mountain had already accumulated generations of eyewitnesses. When Project Sign opened its investigations, the lights were already part of Appalachian history. When Project Blue Book began collecting reports from across America, Brown Mountain was not a new mystery, it was an old one. That history created a problem. The Brown Mountain lights refused to fit comfortably within the growing UFO narrative. Most famous UFO cases involve identifiable events: a craft, a close encounter, radar confirmation, physical traces, military involvement. The Brown Mountain lights offered almost none of those things. There were no occupants, no landings, no recovered materials, no messages, no dramatic encounters, only lights. Appearing, disappearing, then returning again weeks, months, or years later. Because of that, early UFO researchers were divided. Some believed Brown Mountain deserved little attention. To them, the lights represented little more than an unusual atmospheric curiosity. Interesting, perhaps, but unrelated to the larger mystery unfolding across the skies of America. Others reached the opposite conclusion. If unexplained aerial lights had been appearing for centuries, long before powered flight, long before satellites, long before military aircraft, then perhaps Brown Mountain represented something more fundamental. Perhaps the mystery of unidentified aerial phenomena did not begin in 1947. Perhaps it had simply been renamed. This disagreement continues today. Some investigators place Brown Mountain alongside famous UFO hotspots. Others intentionally separate it. Neither position has ever achieved consensus. That uncertainty is one of the reasons Brown Mountain continues attracting serious researchers. It refuses to support any single explanation. Extraterrestrial hypotheses struggle because the lights demonstrate no apparent intelligence. They do not approach witnesses. They do not respond to observation. They do not interact with vehicles. They simply continue their quiet appearance over the mountains. Natural explanations encounter their own difficulties. Some observations align well with atmospheric conditions. Others do not. Some match known light sources. Others occur where no such sources exist. Each theory explains part of the record. None explains all of it. Perhaps the most remarkable characteristic of Brown Mountain is its indifference. Whatever the lights represent, they appear entirely unconcerned with human attention. They performed the same silent movements before newspapers existed. They continued after newspapers arrived. They ignored photographers, ignored scientists, ignored tourists, ignored drones, ignored the internet. While countless other mysteries evolved with each generation, Brown Mountain remained almost stubbornly unchanged. Within the Southeast, that consistency shaped local attitudes. Residents rarely treated the lights as extraordinary. They were simply part of Brown Mountain. Visitors often arrived expecting spectacle. Locals usually offered something far simpler. Watch long enough, you might see them. That quiet confidence distinguishes Brown Mountain from many better-known mysteries. The phenomenon never required exaggeration. It never depended upon elaborate stories. It survived because witnesses continued seeing the same thing. Lights. Modern UFO researchers have returned to Brown Mountain with renewed interest. Some propose unknown natural energy, others suggest geological influences, while still others speculate about non-human intelligence. None of these interpretations has been conclusively demonstrated, and Brown Mountain continues to resist ownership by any single theory. Nightwatch Archives does not choose between those theories. That is not the archive's purpose. Our responsibility is to preserve the record, the eyewitnesses, the investigations, the scientific studies, the failed explanations, the remaining questions. Together, they form one of the longest continuous records of unexplained aerial observations in North America. And remarkably, the file remains open, even today. Observers continue gathering at overlooks after sunset. Some leave disappointed. Others leave convinced they have witnessed something extraordinary. Many leave with something else entirely, an appreciation for uncertainty. Brown Mountain reminds us that not every mystery ends with an answer. Sometimes, the greatest value lies in preserving the question itself, because once a mystery survives centuries of observation, it ceases to be merely a local legend. It becomes part of history. And history is exactly what the archive was built to preserve. The record remains open. Every investigation eventually reaches a point where the evidence stops, but the questions remain. The Brown Mountain Lights reached that point long ago. More than a century of scientific observation, thousands of eyewitness accounts, photographs, video, carefully documented field investigations. None have produced the single answer generations of researchers hope to find. That is not a failure. It is the reality of the historical record. Throughout this investigation, we've examined what is known. The lights have been observed for centuries. They were reported before aviation, before electricity reached many mountain communities, before modern highways crossed the Blue Ridge. They have remained remarkably consistent through changing generations. Witnesses continue describing glowing lights that appear over the ridgelines, move without sound, sometimes divide, sometimes merge, then slowly disappear into the darkness. The reports have changed remarkably little. Science has explained many individual sightings: headlights, railroad locomotives, atmospheric refraction, temperature inversions, campfires. Each explanation has successfully accounted for some observations. That work matters. Good investigation eliminates what can be eliminated, but after each explanation is applied, the remaining reports continue. That is why Brown Mountain remains significant. Not because every sighting is unexplained, but because enough carefully documented observations continue resisting complete explanation. That distinction often disappears in popular discussions. Believers sometimes claim every light is evidence of something extraordinary. Skeptics sometimes argue every light has already been explained. The historical record supports neither position completely. Instead, it presents something more challenging. A phenomenon that appears to contain both ordinary explanations and observations that continue resisting them. Perhaps that is why Brown Mountain has survived every generation of investigation. It does not ask anyone to believe. It simply asks observers to look. And generation after generation, people have looked. The Brown Mountain Lights also occupy a unique position within the archive. Unlike many investigations, there is no central witness, no dramatic encounter, no single night when history changed forever. Instead, History accumulated. One observation became another. Another became a decade. Another became a century, until the mystery itself became part of the landscape. Few unexplained phenomena possess that kind of continuity. Most arrive suddenly, then disappear. Brown Mountain has done neither. It has remained, quietly, patiently, almost indifferent to whether anyone attempts to explain it. That indifference may be its defining characteristic. Whatever the lights represent, they do not appear interested in convincing anyone. They ask for no attention. They make no announcement. They simply continue appearing over the same ridges, as they have for generations. Perhaps that is why they have become one of America's oldest enduring unexplained aerial phenomena. Not because they are the most spectacular, but because they are among the most consistent. Brown Mountain has maintained its place within UFO lore precisely because it has resisted both definitive explanation and sensational transformation, remaining an enduring anomaly rather than evolving into more dramatic narratives. For Nightwatch Archives, this concludes only one investigation. Tonight we asked a single question. What makes the Brown Mountain Lights one of America's oldest unexplained aerial mysteries? The historical record has answered that question. The lights were documented. The investigations were conducted. The explanations were tested. The mystery endured. But this collection is far from complete. Across the American Southeast, other lights have appeared. Other witnesses have come forward. Other investigations remain preserved within the archive. Some unfolded above military installations, others above isolated highways. Some crossed state lines, others emerged above quiet lakes and forgotten mountains. Each deserves its own file. Each deserves to be examined with the same discipline, the same restraint, and the same respect for the historical record. Because every drawer inside the Nightwatch archives contains another investigation, another witness, another unanswered question. Until that drawer is opened, the record remains preserved, waiting. Case file 002 is now closed. The truth waits in the dark,